Thank you, Ruth. I'm more live. So, we'll call to order the July 11 meeting of the Trinity County Planning Commission. I would like to make one announcement. We're going to make a modification on the agenda and swap items 4 and 5 for tonight's meeting. 4 and 5, right, okay. That being said, we'll move on to public comment. Members of the public may address the Planning Commission concerning matters within our jurisdiction which are not listed on the agenda and to request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. No action may be taken on such matters at this meeting. Is there anyone who would care?
Good evening, Commission. Justin Hawkins from Hayfork. Before I start tonight, I just wanted to go ahead and publicly welcome the new planning director, Director Hunter, Trinity County. Welcome. Can't wait to have more staff and planning departments. It's going to be excellent. So I just passed out a section of the Ascent Environmental draft EIR to the commissioners there. And I thought this might be relevant to tonight's conversation in general about variances. This is the section talking about exposure of people to objectionable odors. This is a very insightful mitigation on the second page. I went ahead and highlighted some sections for you. This is what Ascent is proposing our county do when there's objectionable odors noted off-site. Corrective actions include immediate and complete harvest of the cannabis plants if there's an off-site complaint. And, you know, frankly, this is hard to quantify odor. And their method of doing so is to have a county employee come out and verify the off-site odor complaint. That's their methodology. Now, a lot of legacy cultivation in Trinity County and allowing for personal use and grows, I don't know how the county employee can determine that there's not plants in an adjacent parcel or somewhere nearby creating the odors. Second of all, I mean, I expect the EIR to be a scientific document. And subjective odors couldn't be farther from scientific. It borders on pseudoscience. I mean, but they do say it's subjective, so they're just declaring it's not scientific at all. There's no scientific way to measure the odors off-site. I think the best thing to do is to default to the position that was the greatest compromise of the whole program, in my opinion, was the variances from the off-site residences and property lines. And I think that we should try to respect that in the EIR coming up. And, you know, their ideas, it gets even better in these corrective actions. They suggest that an alternative would be to move all the outdoor plants to an enclosed structure if the plants are currently grown in movable potted plants. The problem with this is in direct contradiction to CDFA guidelines, and in fact statutory guidelines for the premises of cultivation facilities. You don't get to move your plants to a new area. That is a top-level violation. You will lose your license instantly, and we're talking, I think, 5-figure violation fees. So that's their mitigation they're recommending in this document. Now, if Ascent is as good at cannabis EIRs as they claim to be, and if it worked in Humboldt and Calaveras and YOLO, then they should know that that's not allowable. I don't know how it gets in there, but that's just an example of the EIR. Thank you.
Mr. Hawkins, have you submitted that in writing? Tomorrow being the deadline, if you want to get there.
Oh, absolutely.
Terry Mines, Junction City. I'd like to welcome the new director. We do need our help. I'm here to support the cannabis community here tonight. We need some things to get pushed through and get this going. We're falling behind as a county a little bit. We need to catch up. I know we're trying hard, and I want to thank all of you very much for all your hard work as usual. We live in a great place. We're losing people right now, both sides, cannabis growers, non-cannabis growers. we gotta tighten it up. County's losing shops, stores. We gotta help push this through and get it moving. I just wanna thank you guys, everything for coming.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment. We have no minutes for tonight, no old business, and we'll move to item number 5, which is a variance request. This is a request for an initial annual variance from the required 500-foot setback cultivation for a type 3 commercial cannabis cultivation site to be closer than the required 500-foot setback from an adjacent property line. This is located at 610 Cout Road in Burnt Ranch, APN 008-21010. Applicant is Holiday. Staff.
Hi, can everyone, there we go. Good evening.
Evening.
The consultant and the applicant is here tonight, back there. This is a variance application that accompanies the use permit that was approved on June 13th. This is the first type 3 variance that you have seen, and because of that, I would just like to clarify that this is a variance from the 500-foot setback to an adjacent property line, not a 350-foot variance, or a variance for the 350-foot setback from a residence that is normally seen with the type 2 licenses. There are 2 letters of support from nearby property owners. Some copies of the staff report, the contrast was just bad with the printer, and we have additional copies where you can read the letter. And the second letter was provided after the staff report, and we have provided copies tonight. And there were no negative letters or comments that were received. And let's see, and staff recommends approval. Do you have any questions?
Commissioners? No? Okay. This is a public hearing. We'll open this for comment from the public.
Good evening, Teacher Brower. As Bella stated, the CUP and the MND were approved on June 13th, and the 500-foot setback that we're asking the variance for is where the applicant, Nicholas Holiday, has been cultivating his 10,000 square foot canopy for the past few years, and so he's not recreating, he's not moving into this area, it's already established there, and to move somewhere else that he would not fall within the 500-foot setbacks would either require moving toward wetland areas or cutting down a whole lot of trees, extending other utilities and things like that. So where it's at right now is where he just wants to keep it, and then the other areas for the expansion move further away from the property line. As was stated, there were 2 letters of support from the neighbors that are within that 500 feet. Both of those homes are well over 1,000 feet away from the cultivation area. And also there was a letter of support from the former property owner who has had the property in the family for decades, as it's a historic ranch. And that's pretty much the gist of it. If you have any questions, please let us know.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. Nicholas Holiday, Burnt Ranch. I would like to say thank you again for hearing this whole process out again one more time. Like my teacher has stated, my neighbors have full support of this project. There isn't very much back there besides me being at the end of the road. There is a small sliver of property that we were asking for this variance from. And I do believe that you all had agreed that being on ag land should follow normal ag setbacks and not these stricter cannabis setbacks that are going to be coming down on us. So I just would appreciate your guys listening through this and hopefully approving it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, staff and commissioners. John Brower from Junction City. And I also want to urge approval of this variance. Nicholas's property is a huge historic ranch, 200 acres. He's growing on a very, very small portion of it. And as previously mentioned, the Planning Commission has wrestled with the notion of these 500-foot setbacks from property lines, for years now, and there's very few properties in the county that can do this type 3 cultivation without a variance, even large square ones like Nicholas's. So as the next ordinance update comes before you, I urge you to really take a closer look at variances in general. And it seems that the 350-foot setback from neighboring residential structure has worked really good for the last few years. There's been very few complaints. There's been a few controversial ones that have come before you, and I think you've ruled well on them. I think it's serving the intent of protecting neighbors from impacts like odors. And the variance process seems to be serving the community well. The biggest problem I think there is with the current way that they're mentioned in the ordinance is the annual renewal. So at the next ordinance update, you'll have an opportunity to hopefully address that and clean it up a little. And in the beginning, 3 years ago,
Let's stay focused on this item.
okay, I'm wandering a little. Thank you. I urge approval of this variance. Thank you.
Justin Hawkins from Hayport. I would also urge the commissioners to go ahead and approve this variance tonight. I think it's been an extremely long process, and tries the patience of it all of the best of us, that's for sure. I wanted to bring attention to page 8 of the staff report, where they talk about the variance, and below number 3, indented is a paragraph that starts with the purpose of the 500-foot setback. The second sentence says, it should be acknowledged that odors being injurious to adjacent parcel properties is subjective. I mean, I don't know how we enforce this if it's subjective. It's a matter of opinion. And objective odors is probably even more subjective. I mean, it's a matter of personal opinion. I have a real problem with that. And it ties in with the initial study. You may not have the initial study with you, but on page 14 of the initial study, they cover air quality. And they talk about the variance being evaluated on an annual basis. I would suggest that the annual variance is problematic to the extreme. I think it shows a bias against the cannabis industry. No other variances are issued on an annual basis. And I think that's unfair. I think it ties up planning. I think it ties up you commissioners. And, it allows a neighbor to literally come up with any excuse to put your variance on the line. And it's my understanding that it leads to extortion scenarios. So, at the last meeting, they talked about changing the wording in this paragraph of the initial study on page 14. Section C-D, it's the last paragraph. And it includes requirements that should odor from the project be an issue at the offsite residence, the county can terminate the variance. That was stricken last meeting, and we don't have the minutes to show that, but I just wanted to make sure that that was still stricken from the initial study. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, sir.
I'll keep it really quick. I would like to urge you approve this as well. Thank you. Matt Hawk.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Tom Belanco, Douglas City. I think you should approve this variance. I also kind of want to echo what some of the previous speakers said. I think, given that this is a conditional use permit and a variance, I'd love to see this question wrapped into the conditions of the conditional use permit. I think the 500-foot setback from property line is kind of inefficient use of your time, and more importantly, staff's time, to prep this. We know of a lot of potential properties coming down. Nicholas is a good example. There's other ones that are on their way to you that need a 500-foot setback from Forest Service, BLM land, SPI. So I know you get your direction from the board. I would love to maybe see you include in some of your feedback, hey, let's revisit this issue and make it part of the conditional use process. And that just, I think, gives you more flexibility, and it's more appropriate for certain site-specific questions. So anyway, in this site, this specific question, absolutely, I think a variance is appropriate. So, good luck. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a site that was permitted for 3 years, and the variance would be a problem for myself because on the other side of it, very close to cultivation site, probably 100 feet from the boundary line on that side, and there is a gravel pit, which sounds like a farmland all day, digging gravel and throwing dust and everything else, about 50 feet from the other side of the fence. So it's, it would be nice to have a variance so that it wasn't 500 feet. Thank you.
Thank you. Going once? Okay, we'll close public comment on this item. Commissioners? Discussion? Thoughts? Concerns?
I move that we approve the commercial cannabis variance application CCV-2018-039 in order to allow the reduction of the commercial cannabis cultivation setback provision outlined in Trinity County Code 17.43.050.A.8 for a type 3 commercial cannabis license from 500 feet to 200 feet, and shall be subject to the following findings of fact and conditions of approval as listed in the staff report.
I will second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion of the motion?
Since we've got a letter of support from the affected neighbor, it makes it a little easier. I said with having a letter of support from the affected property owner, it makes it a little easier to grant a variance.
Okay, anything else? All right, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. 4-1, this is approved. Okay, moving back to item number 4. This one is proposed rezone mitigated neg deck and conditional use permits. The rezone is from Ag District A10 to an SUD. A mitigated negative declaration and conditional use permit with a mitigated negative declaration for the rezone for 3 conditional use permits. A manufacturing permit consistent with a type 7 license, cannabis nursery operation with a type 4 license consisting of approximately 4,600 square feet, and a cannabis distribution facility consistent with a type 11 license. This is located at 3001 Morgan Hill Road in Hayfork on APN 017-430-49. The applicant is Valley of Plenty LLC, Nebudian, and this item is being continued from June 27, 2019. Because this was re-noticed, we will have a new public hearing. Staff.
Good evening. So right now, Mary Beth is calling the applicant's agent, and he's going to be available on the phone. So if you can hang tight for just a minute.
else about the report.
So just hang on.
Or you want to wait until he's on the line to discuss the staff report?
If that's okay, just
That's
that's
fine.
somewhat disruptive.
Charlie.
Charlie, thank you for being available. We just-
Sure.
Yep, we just opened the item, so, thank you.
Okay. I'll just leave my phone on mute unless I'm needed, but I'll be right here if you need me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. You can hear us?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. As stated, this item was continued from our last planning commission meeting. Since then, I believe that you have all had the opportunity to review the initial study of integrated main deck for the project. We also, just this evening, we made available to members of the public and to you better set guidelines for the SUPs. So that was handed out to you before the meeting, and if you'd like to take some time to review that, you can. In the staff report, we had said that the guidelines were in the secret document, basically, but that would have required a bit of a hunt and pack commission, so we put the guidelines together in a more compact way. And they look like the guidelines for other SUPs in Trinity County. That's the biggest change from last time. The applicant is here this evening and can answer any questions that you may have, and the agent is available, as you know, for answering any questions regarding the secret document. To reiterate from the last time, this is a rezone from ag to an SUD. And if you look at the parcel, to the east of the parcel, it is currently ag zoning. To the south of the parcel, it is unclassified, it's public land, it belongs to the Forest Service. And west of the parcel is an old SPI mill, and so the parcels to the west are zoned industrial. One of them straddles Haycore Creek that is immediately adjacent to this parcel. And then to the north, there is an active gravel mine. So the SUD is a combination of the ag uses and industrial uses that are in that area. We did not go to industrial zoning for the parcel. SUD seemed more appropriate because access to the parcel is on Morgan Hill Road, and the other industrial parcels in the area are accessed off of Highway 3. So it didn't seem appropriate to have long-term industrial uses being accessed off of more of a rural road versus Highway 3. So do you have any questions?
I have one, but go ahead. If anyone else have a question for staff? You enjoy that? It was a thorough secret document. Anybody, questions?
Yes, I do. In fact, we received, the formatting from the package we received last time is different. Is there any additional changes other than the formatting? I have compared both documents. They seem pretty similar, but
So are you talking about the staff report?
yes, the staff report.
Okay, so as stated in the staff report, I didn't want to include everything in the staff report as a copy. The only thing, there was one change, as stated in the staff report. We included, for convenience, the description from the zoning ordinance of SUD, of specific unit development, but that was the only change.
Okay.
There are no different, there was no different evaluation.
Thank you.
My question is the industrial parcel just to the west, that the creek runs through, does that also only have access from Highway 3?
I can
As
speak
far
to
as
that.
I know- Yeah, as far as I know it does. And maybe the applicant, he is more familiar with that parcel, but
Okay, just 1 second. Do we have any other questions? And do you have anything else to report on?
no, not if you don't have questions.
Okay, then we will open public comment and we'll start with the applicant. So go ahead.
Appreciate us continuing the matter over as promptly as possible. Welcome to our new director. To answer your question about that parcel, I believe it is number 17 on the parcel map. That parcel was originally part of the compound of parcels that comprises the now defunct SPI mill in Hayfork. That property was accessed from Highway 3 over a bridge that is now removed that goes over Hayfork Creek. So it was, you would have needed to drive into the mill and then access that bridge that again is no longer there. So essentially that side of parcel 17 that is on the same side of the creek as my parcel is, for all effects and purposes, landlocked inside my parcel.
But the other portion on the west side of the
Is
creek,
accessed by 3.
with
It's
its
accessed from
own,
Highway 3.
with its own encroachment, not through the mill.
It is through the mill. It is through the mill. It is on the back end of the mill, and its historic use, for a lack of a better way to put it, was the mill's dump. It's where they just put off everything that wasn't working and kind of forgot about it.
We always put those along creeks.
Yeah, well, it seems that way in Trinity County. When I purchased that land, I took approximately 7,000 pounds of trash from that parcel that is bisected by the creek to the dump, and have a verbal agreement with Mr. Mearson, the owner of the parcel, to, when it's not in the flood stage, to store stuff out there if need be, like logs or whatever, but it's often unused as it's just so difficult to get to, and every time the creek breaches the flood stage, like it did last year, the physical topography of that side of the creek changes. So it's basically it is in its entirety in the floodplain.
I'm sure the community is grateful that you cleaned it up. Is there anything else you'd want to say about it as the applicant tonight?
No, I hope that everything has been provided to you in a way that we're looking to get it, and in the legal I's and T's were dotted and crossed, and we can move on with hopefully approving this scope of work, because I feel like having a manufacturing and distribution site that is actually functional in Trinity County would be a great economic benefit. My parents came here as political refugees in the 80s, and I think in one generation, for me to have built this business and hopefully afford people gainful employment is a big deal to me. That's like the definition of the American dream, and I really appreciate having that opportunity here in Trinity County, and I hope to carry it forward for many years to come. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we'll open up to anybody else in the public who would care to comment.
Hello, my name is Jimmy Mins. I'm from Weaverville. I'm originally from Texas. I have a son who has a tremendous amount of medical problems. He was a 23-week preemie. He had a blood transfusion, he had a stroke, he's considered hemiplegic, and where we moved from is right by the medical center, and they've done great work with him. But the stuff that they provide for him, just the lotions and stuff, I don't know if y'all are from here, I'm always walking with them. In 5 minutes, he got more than he ever got from the medical center. And, I don't know anything about the legal aspect, but what it does for people with epilepsy and medical problems is, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. You can come by my house, I won't put it on my son, we'll go for a walk, you'll hear his right foot drag every time. It's very noticeable. Put it on, we walk from one end of town to the other, and it's no problem for him. For a little bit, he's just like everybody else. And I want y'all to really think about the medical aspect of it, and I don't know about all the other stuff, but I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Matt Hawkins, I'd like to once again urge your approval on this matter. As a cultivator in Trinity County that's been in this legal system for the last few years, it is really, really, really hard restaurant distribution. I've worked with two of the larger distributors in the state, and we are their last resort to come up here. Because they don't want to drive through National Forest land. They don't want to drive 8 hours from Salinas. So we need this. As a cultivator in this county, we need distribution. We need manufacturing. And this is a perfect place to do it. So I urge you guys to please approve this. Thank you.
Thank you.
For a grower trying to distribute things, having a manufacturing area in Trinity County would be as important as it would be for the Ferndale Creamery to vertically integrate into a market where it's not a price taker, it's a price setter. And it's much more fundamentally better business. And I would hope you approve it.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, my name is Matt Swanstrom. I have a licensed farm in Hayport, and I'm just here tonight to voice my support for the Valley Planning Project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. Justin Hawkins from Hayfork. Last meeting I brought up some things about the map, and I don't know if my comments are rememberable, but on the map you can see it on page, well, there's a new one that has, I'll just go to the staff report, I'm sorry, I don't have the page, but it is, has the map, the site, page 37 in blue. It's hard to read. The photocopy's kind of smeared. But there's a setback line, and you can see it in the new SUD guidelines better on page, towards the end. Fish and Wildlife noted this in their comments, in their letter to for the project. That there is a dotted line around the pond, the top right left corner of the map. That's 100 foot, they call it SS for sanitary setback. The Fish and Wildlife rightly notes that that needs to be 150 feet from perennial water bodies, a creek or a pond. And I found it interesting that in the staff comments to Fish and Wildlife's point that this needs to meet the water board setbacks that we all have to meet, it was not addressed actually. The county never addressed the comments regarding the setback. You can look on the staff report, page 19 in the blue lettering. The comments regarding setbacks, and it says that the established greenhouse near the pond should be 150 feet away from perennial water bodies. That is most of the way down the first paragraph of page 19. Below, you can read the responses from staff. They never touched that point. And I'm in support of all cultivation, but we've got to follow the same rules. And he has a licensed greenhouse and processing facility within the setbacks. It's on the map. Fish and Wildlife called it out in here, but the planning staff ignored it. And I think this is a really strong EIR. It's got a lot in it. It's thick. Don't get me wrong, but I noticed this in the first 2 minutes of looking at the staff report last meeting. It's a no-brainer. Fish and Wildlife calls it out, and it's ignored. What's a little more is that the proposed outdoor garden for the future expansion activities is marked at being 84 feet from the property line in the map also. That's kind of that right polygon, like shape, trapezoid. That's going to probably be within 150 feet also of Hayfork Creek, because it's right next to the property line there. I don't know how staff managed to miss these items, but to me it shows a serious flaw in the EIR and staff's analysis.
Thanks, sir.
My name is Michael Rue. I live across the street from this proposed project. I also want to approve it. You know, and I'm the neighbor. I see things going on every day. Not only am I the neighbor, I'm the job foreman. And it pays my mortgage. It gives me a chance to pay my bills. That also goes to downriver, you know, because they're my consultant. You know, so the money goes around. Without this, things are going to dry up. So please approve it.
Thank you.
As the applicant, I'm allowed to rebut public comment, so I'd just like to rebut Mr. Hawkins' comment. It goes on in the EIR to discuss how the greenhouse that he's so concerned about and the processing building he's so concerned about being inside that 100-foot setback, which have been permitted structures since 2014, once the scope of work is approved, will be decommissioned and used as normal agricultural buildings. What's currently the processing building will become my auto shop, and the greenhouse that is near that 100-foot floodplain will be used for growing my wife's vegetable starch. She has a CSA in Hayfork called Hayfork Heirlooms. We have 8,000 square feet of vegetable garden at the farm and 50 fruit trees, so agricultural uses at my property are not uncommon, and this greenhouse, instead of just sitting empty, will be used to grow food, which there are no water setback requirements or any really other concerns with as they relate to cannabis. And so I would just like to clarify that for the commission. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the commission. Do the guidelines of the SUD address this 150-foot, this commitment that those things won't be cannabis operations within 150 feet?
The guidelines.
Or couldn't it?
The guidelines require that all cannabis uses are in compliance with the regulations that allow them.
Commissioners, any
I would like to make it known that I did pick up my initial study from Mr. Deludian at his property, and he offered to give me a tour of his property, which I took him up on, and I saw the entire thing. I went in every single building, and I wanted to make sure the commission knew that I had done that.
To get back to your question, if I may, in the guidelines, if you look at the second page, in section 2 of the guidelines for the SUD development plan, in the second paragraph, the cannabis uses, it says here, they are subject to state and county licensing requirements.
Okay.
Mr. McHugh, may I also speak to this point?
Let me raise, let's hold up that one a second. Are there other subjects, because I want to talk about the SUV. Let's talk about that stuff. Is there anything else you want to bring up? So, the argument against industrial zoning that I heard was traffic.
Primarily.
That's the only one I heard.
Other uses in the area having, oh, yes, okay, yes.
So-
Access.
Most of the SUD zoning we've seen is a multi-parcel situation where you want to do a development that crosses parcel boundaries, such as in the industrial park, such as the one we saw above the, I keep forgetting the color thing, in Douglas City, up above the rest stop, up on the hill above the rest stop. Those are multi-parcel SUDs, and the idea of the SUD was to create a development that had multiple uses for the various parcels. And in other areas, I think a very common example would be mix of residential and commercial uses where there's no zone that really allows that sort of mix, and so an SUD is put on that creates that. Here we have a single parcel. All of the uses proposed fit within industrial zoning. It's right next door to industrial zoning, traditional industrial zoning. The argument of not zoning it that I've heard is traffic on Morgan Hill Road. If Mr. Davudian's project here is wildly successful, as we all hope it will be, that will have significant traffic on Morgan Hill. I think it will build up. If he is the distributor for Northern California, that could be significant traffic on Morgan Hill. So I'm less swayed that traffic is the one reason not to just do industrial zoning. The other thing about SUD is that particularly with the SUD development plan and guidelines document, which is abstracted from the sequence, thank you for doing that, because a commission in the future who's trying to figure out what the heck this SUD is will look to a document simply to figure it out. What this SUD basically said, what this document says, is that this SUD is this project or this project only, and if this project, for whatever reason, ceases to operate, no one else can use this parcel for anything except for what this is without a rezone at that time. So it's really restrictive when an industrial zone is a generalized zone for other uses that could be on that property down the road without encumbering a sale or encumbering any future activity at the parcel with this SUD guideline, with this diagram and layout, which is very, I mean, if it's not this project, there's no use for that parcel without a rezone. Does that sound accurate?
Chairman, yes and no. First of all, coming back to what has been done, this is really,
You might get closer just because it ends up being.
sorry. Going back to your first comment, what has been done, that may have been what has been done, but the zoning, as it's written for SUD, is very flexible. It doesn't really even spell out what it's supposed to look like or how, if it's supposed to be multi-parcel. So in that respect, there's flexibility with the SUD zoning, even though it has been historically used in a certain way. So as far as the uses go, yes, it still could be used, but when you have sometimes it's a planned development, in this case it's called a special unit development, you have to stay with that development or rezone. So if there's a certain area that is zoned for industrial processing uses, a future buyer would have to use that the same way, it have to be consistent. So it still could be used by another owner, unless they wanted to rezone it in a different way. Now, with the mix of zonings in the area, I think there are more reasons to consider the SUD designation other than just traffic. It does allow for flexibility, and it is compatible with surrounding zonings. This is kind of a mixture in that area. We have unclassified, yes, and agriculture and industrial. So I think staff's recommendation is appropriate.
I'm at a loss to understand the flexibility. These guidelines are applied to the parcel.
Right.
They're very specific. These guidelines say it has to be this project with those three activities, subject to the SUP, with the diagram, the layout, the plan, how that's the way that this parcel is to be used without a rezone. So it's not something, SUD in the zoning ordinance is very flexible, but once it's applied to a parcel, the flexibility goes away. Now it's committed to that project. Okay, I just wanted the applicant to know that that's what happens to this parcel. It's tied up with this project, and if you want to do something else with that parcel, you got to rezone it. And if it were industrial, you could do anything that the industrial zoning district allows. So.
That's a very good point.
Okay, I'm done with that one.
Well, since it's in paper, I will go ahead and make my motion, and then we can discuss.
Is there motion verbiage?
Yes, there is.
That's on page 7.
Yeah. I have it now. Here it is. I move that we adopt the findings that the initial study and mitigated negative declarations are consistent with the California Environmental Quality Act (CEQA) requirements, and adopt the mitigated monitoring and reporting program, MMRP, that provides sufficient mitigations to reduce impacts from the project to a less than significant level. Recommend to the Board of Supervisors that County Assessor's parcel number 017-430-49 be rezoned from agricultural 10-acre minimum A10 to specific unit development SUD to allow for the manufacturing of cannabis products. Approve the conditional use permit for development of a cannabis manufacturing facility contingent upon the approval by the Board of Supervisors of the rezone of County Assessor's parcel number 017-430-49 from the A10 zoning designation to the SUD zoning designation, and subject to the conditions of approval for that use as provided in the staff report and of the county's cannabis ordinance. Approve the conditional use permit for development of a cannabis distribution use, subject to the conditions of approval for that use as provided in this staff report and of the county's cannabis ordinance. Approve the conditional use permit for development of a cannabis nursery, subject to the conditions of approval for that use as provided in this staff report and of the county's cannabis ordinance, including all recommended conditions of approval and findings of fact as listed in the staff report.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve that has been seconded. One comment on the motion: might we include the SUD development planning guidelines in the at the end of item number 2? Recommended the board that if the rezone occur to allow the manufacturing cannabis project subject to the for cannabis.
I will amend the motion to include after number 2 with the addition of the SUD development plan and guidelines.
I'll amend my second.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Any discussion of the motion?
I strongly feel that for the cannabis industry in the Hayfork and Higham area, that this is a very important item to approve. We desperately are in need of distribution, and it certainly wouldn't hurt to have manufacturing and the jobs that will be provided by this project. I think it's really an important thing and a good thing for the Hayfork area.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? This is a rezone. Is this a roll call?
I second.
Okay, let's do a roll call.
Commissioner Stewart.
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier.
No.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye. All right. The items are all forwarded on to the Board of Supervisors. Well, the rezone is forwarded on to the Board of Supervisors. The rest of them are approved. All right. Yeah, if I find my agenda says we're moving on to item number 6. Item number 6 is a variance from the required 350-foot commercial cannabis setback. This is a request for an initial variance from the required setback from neighboring residential dwellings located at 1948 Brady Road in Hayfork, parcel 011-41016. The applicant is K. Lau. Staff.
Alright, this is the second variance of the evening. The agent is here to pull a run platform. And the cultivation site is located on Brady Road in Hayfork. The property owner of the impacted residents wrote a letter in support, goes on the last page on the back. There were no negative comments received, and staff recommends approval. That's all.
There's 3 effective to...
No, there's only one that's within the 300 setback.
Oh, one on the here, yeah, just the one.
That's included the area.
Sure,
Yeah. Surrounding area.
Very good, thank you.
And show the distances that they meet the setback requirements of the houses to the north and west, north and south.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions of staff report, of the staff? Okay, we'll open for public comment. Would anyone care to comment on this item?
Good evening. On our right with Flora, I'm representing our client, Ken Lau, and his company tonight. This is pretty straightforward. As you can see on the map, there's not a lot of already developed land on this parcel, and that's about right under 5 acres. They will be applying for a 3-acre conversion permit for the little timber they do have to clear to make this work, but trying to make as minimal environmental impact as we can. So that's why we're asking for this variance and not to move it from where existing cultivation had been before. As Bella mentioned, all properties either have no comment or have commented in support. Specifically, the only neighbor affected does support this variance. All neighboring properties are also zoned the same, so all rural residential approved in the cannabis ordinance. Staff recommends it, and all the conditions of approval, including that 3-acre conversion, will be met. This is just the first step in our process to getting towards the other items. So I do urge you to approve this. As like I said, it's pretty straightforward in my mind, I believe. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions of the consultant? I have one. The 2 blue areas in the appendix 3 diagram, I don't know if this is yours, I'm sorry, the one in the staff report on page 10. The larger blue area to the left is the one requiring a 3-acre conversion.
Mm-hmm.
And will the other garden continue to be used once the conversion is done?
They're going to have, I believe they're going to have immature plants over there. Let me look at
I beg your pardon?
I'm just looking at the other map that's included. Proposed, yeah, they have another hoop house where its existing garden is, yep. And then the larger area are 4 more spots. One of them is for immature plants. So they want to try to get to that 10,000 square foot canopy. So they're going to plan on putting those 4 30 by 100s in the larger blue area. And then they can fit 1 more in that already cleared area, and that'll fit in their canopy. So they're going to go ahead and maximize their canopy space. Yep.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. Anybody else care to comment?
Hello again, Commission. Justin Hawkins from Hayfork. I've actually had a chance to meet the applicant, and he's a really good guy. And I think we need more people like this in Hayfork. So on the face, I would support this variance for sure. He's tried to do it the right way and go through the process, get the variance, license, get a 3-acre conversion done right, not do it and then ask for forgiveness later. So I really think that the applicant's done a tremendous job trying to play by the rules and do it just right. But my concern just goes back to the staff report on page 5 again, where under number 3, the last section of the indented paragraph says that, you know, if there was a change of ownership in that adjacent parcel, the annual variance process will allow future neighbors to express concerns about odor, and he's going to be building greenhouses. So we're talking about a scenario again where the neighbor could complain and theoretically block the use of those greenhouses. I don't know how that's fair to cannabis cultivators to have that taken away. I mean, they're putting a building in. It's going to be very expensive. And to have it just taken away based on someone's opinion on maybe a new neighbor, that just does not seem appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for any discussion. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I'll
Yes.
just go ahead. I move that we approve the commercial cannabis variance application CCV-2019-09 that would allow the reduction of the commercial cannabis cultivation setback provision outlined in the Trinity County Code 17.43.050.8.8 from 350 feet to 279 feet from the residential structure located on APN 011-410-17-00 and shall be subject to the findings of fact and conditions of approval as listed in the staff report.
I will second that motion.
Okay, motion and second to approve. Any discussion of that motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7 is another variance request for an initial variance from the required 350-foot setback from neighboring residential dwelling located at 365 North Salt Creek Road in Hay Fork, APN 016-200-03. Applicant is Q Ho. And I beg your pardon for not getting that right.
The agent said he will be here tonight, but I don't believe he is. Neither is the applicant or the owner. No. The cultivation site is located on North Salt Creek in Hay Fork. One of the owners of the residents that will be impacted, that is included in this variance, wrote a letter of support. He's also in the cannabis program. The property owner to the northwest did not provide any comment. There were no negative comments received, and staff recommends approval. And again, with these variances, if there's anything more you'd like to see or any other different types of information, feel free to let me know.
Is there a residence on this parcel?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Just near the trees.
It's kind of in the, probably in the shadows. Oh, and we did get updated aerial imagery to 2018.
We've been on Salt Creek before. If this one got variance from the other side. Okay, any questions of staff? Any public comment on this item? Seeing none. Commissioners, any discussion of this item?
Yes, I would like to note that I'm in favor of this project. The existing zoning is agricultural. All the zoning adjacent to the applicant are zoned agricultural as well. I think it's a good fit. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
Okay.
Again, since this is a Hay Fork,
Your night.
my night. I move that we approve commercial cannabis variance application CCB-2019-010 in order to allow the reduction of commercial cannabis cultivation setback provision outlined in Trinity County Code 17.43.050.8.8 from 350 feet to 280 feet for the residents located on APN 016-200-02-00 and 135 feet for the residents located on APN 016-200-04-00 and shall be subject to the findings of fact and conditions of approval as listed in the staff report.
I will second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Okay, call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, item number 8 then is matters from the commission. Commissioners. Nothing? Okay, staff, matters from staff.
Yes, okay, so you have met our new planning building director, Kim Hunter.
Welcome.
Very,
Welcome, Director.
very happy to have her in the house. We have big meetings coming up in the month of August. The draft DIR and ordinance for cannabis are coming up on August 13th, 14th, and 15th. Tentatively, we were looking at the 13th for public comment, doing an evening meeting, perhaps starting around 5 p.m., and who knows how long that will be. We're anticipating that they're going to be well-attended meetings, and don't know if we're going to need a third day, but tentatively, we reserved one. So I know you're working people, you probably have limitations when it comes to times of day that is going to be available, and that's midweek. So giving you a heads up now, and we'll be contacting you, I'll be contacting you to find out about hours as we're making reservations at the Trinity Alps Performing Arts Center. That's where we're intending to have the meetings. So that's a big thing that's coming up for scheduling. We're going to have another meeting on July 25th. Right now, do not know for sure how we're looking on August 8th. So we'll be able to confirm that pretty soon for your regular meeting in August. Since we're going to probably wear you out for the special meeting, the 13th through the 15th, we might, just kind of depends what is going on. If there's something that's very, very pressing, we'll go ahead and push for the 8th. If not, we'll wait until the month of September.
So there won't be a meeting on the 22nd?
There will not be a meeting on the 22nd right now. No, there will not.
At the 13, 14, 15, are you thinking it's the DEIR and the ordinance?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, I think that's aggressive, but we'll see.
And you all have received you have your hard copies, absolutely, of the draft DIR and able to, okay.
Not the ordinance, though.
Yeah. Pardon me?
Not the ordinance.
No, nobody does, not yet.
Okay.
And we're expecting to have response to comments by then?
Response to comments for the draft DIR ends tomorrow. Public comment period ends tomorrow, and then we're hoping to get a version of the ordinance out maybe in the first week of August, so people have some time to look at it ahead of time, and it wouldn't be just for 1 week before your planning commission meeting.
Please, thank
It
you.
would be longer, so people would have more time to review it.
This ordinance is the entire program. It's all of the
Correct.
commercial, not the personal grow, but all of the commercial ordinances rolled up.
Correct.
Okay.
So unless I misunderstood what your question was, Grant, what I would like to know is, will we have the responses to the questions that have been submitted and are due tomorrow for the meetings in August? Will there be written responses to that?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the purpose of that meeting is to hold a public hearing and actually adopt the final document.
Yes, it
Which,
is.
so you have to have the
So
document
we
plus
have
all the
to, we're
responses.
obligated to
All the
have responses.
responses. Okay.
Yeah. That's why August 8th doesn't look terribly appealing right now.
Okay. Is that it?
Director Tippett, Rick Tippett will remain involved with cannabis as we go through our draft EIR and ordinance process because of the history. Of course, Director Hunter is going to be involved as well, but there's some succession planning here, and it would be difficult to catch up on the years of history with that, although they're both going to be involved in that process.
Just make one comment. I would like to thank you for the work you put down as acting director.
Thank you for your work as commissioners.
So, with the new director on board, you're in charge of the cannabis program, is that how that will be moving
Correct.
forward?
Yes, but I will be reporting directly to Kim.
Okay. And is there someone else who'll be managing the non-cannabis planning activities? Do you know yet, Kim, you'll be doing that for now? Okay. Okay, great. I haven't seen much of that with it, but.
No, you should see more.
Okay. Very good. Commissioners, anything else? Going once? Okay, we're adjourned at 8:07.